than fighting for friends, fighting for democracy until your death. And this is what Edgar Chagwa Lungu did. He fought for the democracy of Zambia. When he willingly came out of retirement to come and unite his party, to come and unite all opposition political parties with only one objective: to restore the tenets of democracy in his dear country. This is an ideal for which he'd lost his life. Zambia has lost a leader. Zambia in Edgar Chagwa Lungu has lost a true servant. The name Edgar Chagwa Lungu shall be etched in the hearts of Zambians and many people on the continent of Africa because of what he stood for, the virtues that he stood for and fought for against all odds until his last breath. He did not do any of that for himself, but did it for mankind. Edgar Chagwa Lungu was my personal friend for more than 3 decades. And I'm yet to come across a person with the resilience that I saw in Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Even when aspersions were cast against him, he still stood tall. When some refused to even recognize his presidency, he still soldiered on. In his retirement, when his benefits were stripped of him, he did not fight back. Instead, he stood tall and continued to pursue his lifelong dream: to provide an environment in which citizens can express themselves freely. Even when he was stopped to use the facilities for which he worked, the roads that he built, he did not cry. Even when he was stopped to visit churches which he helped build, he did not give up. When he was stopped to enter airports that he built, he still soldiered on. When he was denied medical attention from hospitals that he built for all citizens of Zambia, he still stood tall. It is my prayer, and I suppose the prayer of many Zambians, that the demise of that gallant son of the soil must not divide Zambia, but rather it must unite all of us. All of us in Zambia must pray to God that the love that Edgar Lungu exhibited for all of us until his dying day must now be exuded by all of us. Let us love one another as a country, as a people. Let us share peace amongst ourselves in honor of Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Let us ensure that democracy is practiced by all and sundry without let in honor of Edgar Lungu, because that is what he died for. May the soul of my president, the soul of my leader, the soul of my brother, my friend, Edgar Chagwa Lungu, rest in peace. One day, Edgar Chagwa Lungu shall be taken where he deserves to be, back home. For now, we put his mortal remains in repose until that day. And we shall all work hard to ensure that that day comes soon. For now, all I can say to my dear brother is, until that day. Until that day, my brother. Farewell.
It's very, very unfortunate that tomorrow we'll be putting to rest our dear President, Dr. Edgar Changwa, a man who loved the youth because I served under the Ministry of Youth, Sport and Child Development, a man who loved the youth, the only man who brought development to, who brought empowerment to the youth of Zambia, empowered them in every sector, even in transport sector, mining sector, construction sector. This man had a desire to see that every youth had a meaningful future. Every youth had something to do, was able to do business, raise money, and put food on the table. We shall surely miss this man. We shall surely miss our boss. I, for one, I worked very closely with him. And every time you take an issue to him, he will tell you that that's the reason to why I appointed you as a minister. You need to learn how to govern this nation. He taught us how to govern the nation. He taught us how to navigate through problems, and surely we shall miss him. Thank you very much.
Ba President Lungu mwalitusha mu Bulanda. Ba President Lungu mwalitusungire ng'abaana. Ba President Lungu mwalitutemenwe kututemwa pamo n'ekyalo kyonse. Ba President Lungu mwalibomba. Ba President Lungu mwalitusha mu Bulanda obulanda obwa kipeshamano. Katuishi nombanga tukalolesha kuli bani, katuishi nga ni bani abakatufumya muri ubu Bulanda mwatushamo balungu. Balungu ifilamba twadila katuishi byoka tutararikao katukumu ne filamba. Tulelila pantu we tata niwe. We mayo niwe. Nga nifafwe bamo. Pakuti tukwate na mashina ya musango yu, tukwate na mashiwe ya kulandire chalo, niwe walengere tata. Ba Edgar Lungu. Lesa asunge umpashi wenu. Lesa amone okutila mwatusha mchi wote. Icha kutila umubili wenu walala mchalo chabene. Tuleto ntonka nyaponga abana benu. Lelo lesanga katusuminisha kuntanshuku ndesubila umubili wenu ukalala uko walingo kulala. Kutina alomba fena kabiri kulilesa mkulu asunge umpashi wenu, lekeni umpashi wenu ule shunda palifufwe bana benu. Umpashi wenu wiloba ubusuma bwenu tulebo mwena muchilonganyo chenu. Ubusuma bwenu balungu tulebo mwena mubuntunse bwenu mufichitwa fyenu fye mwatu bombele fwe bana benu pamonge chalo cha Zambia. Lesa asunge umpashi wenu.
Yeah, so I remember President Edgar Lungu as, first of all, a very hardworking individual. President Edgar Lungu shocked a lot of us in the manner he worked as a president. I think for me, he actually showed that that seat or that position of presidency is not just for anybody. That one has to really be ready for it, psychologically ready, physically ready. Somebody has to be well prepared to carry on that duty for our country, our great country. President Lungu would wake up in the morning, start his day by jogging. He would be somewhere in Kasama, for example. 05:30 would be the first one to be outside waiting for all of us to be with him and begin the day by jogging. After about an hour and a half of exercising, I'd be back, freshen up. Maybe about 7:30, 8, you have your breakfast with him. And after that, President Lungu would now lead you to visiting projects. You'd be visiting a school, you'd be talking, meeting chiefs, meeting headmen, you'd be moving to a hospital under construction, you'd be talking to stakeholders, talking to a contractor, you'd be moving on to visiting a road project. It would take the whole day of the president doing work with you, asking questions, checking why there's no progress, meeting traditional leaders, trying to understand what their problems are in a particular area, meeting civil servants, getting to understand their frustrations or challenges, successes, things that need to be, to see dealt with by the head of state. He would spend the whole day, and trust me, the next time you are going to sit down with the president and have a meal with him would be around 19 hours when you are back to your base. And after that, you'd be having a meal with him that would be like lunch or supper. And then you start your recap for the day. Begin to discuss what next, how did that go, what happened, Minister Infrastructure, why is the contractor not on site there? What has happened? Where is the money? What happened to the budget? You'd go on doing a recap till late in the night, and he would be sleeping. Actually, when you say your goodbyes, he would tell you, I have stuff to read. And the following day, early in the morning, you start the whole routine again. At 05, you'd wake up and start the whole thing all over again. And you'd be now in Mwense. 3, 4, 5 days of visiting a particular province would be characterized by that. Very hardworking. But the result of all that is that we built police houses in the country, throughout the country, military houses. Just think about the kind of infrastructure President Lungu and the government inherited in the whole country. The police are respected today. They used to wear torn uniforms. They used to live in houses that were cracked, not respected. That job was never respected. Just building houses across the country elevated that profession. The police today in Zambia are well respected, feared. When you just look at the infrastructure that President Lungu championed in the country. The result of that hard work I talked about. The roads. Roads are enablers. When you build a road to a particular community in a rural area, what you're going to see following that is development. You see a change in livelihood. You'd see people have access to markets, competitive market. You see farmers having access to inputs, farming inputs, but you also see people taking development to such a particular area. So roads enable development. A particular place like Mazatuba in Chipangali, if it's closed down, as an example, there's maybe only one merchant who would be taking farming inputs there. And because they're the only one, they'll take advantage of the market. And they'll, the prices of farming inputs would be so expensive. because there's nobody else competing with them. So that will push the cost of production by farmers there to really high and unsustainable levels that farmers will not be able to cope and they will not be able to make good profit. But when you open up the place by putting a good road, you see vehicles getting there easily. They will be able to take different, agro dealers and provide competitive pricing for farming inputs. And it means that farmers would access cheap inputs and have a very good yield. But also they would be able to sell at competitive pricing because there will be so many people competing for their produce. So roads are enablers. In such a place, you'd be able to see good vehicles getting there, people getting farms, people taking various kinds of businesses, create employment, create opportunities. And this happened throughout the country. We had an ambitious program of creating more than 10,000 gravel roads throughout the country, access roads, to all areas of this country. Evidence is all there. I mean, Minister of Infrastructure, Minister of Local Government would provide all the evidence that you need to see what President Lungu did to this country. His legacy today will live on. The projects are there to tell a story of who this man was. So roads in the rural areas that enable development. And then in the urban areas, I mean, take for example, the Lusaka decongestion project. Without that project, today Lusaka should be choked of traffic. Before we thought about it, before we realized that it would be almost impossible to do business in Lusaka, to take your child to school, to go to town and do business and quickly get back, before we realized that, at some point Lusaka would be choked, President Lungu came up with the decongestion project. And look at how many access roads, bypasses that we created, interchanges, or otherwise known as flyover bridges. Look at the roads that were expanded from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, and bypasses like the 7070 road. Now, all those now have made it possible for us to be able to get to our destinations on time, do our business, be productive, and get back home. That was a vision of President Lungu. Think about the Mongu-Kalabo Road. Twice attempted, and we failed to achieve it as a people under the MMD government and so on. But President Lungu made sure, invested a lot of money, and we had the whole project completed and well done. Think about the many roads that we have done. The greatest road, think about the Chinsali, Tumpika road, all the way up to Tanzania. I think that road is ongoing, but started under President Edgar Lungu. Think about Solwezi Chingola road and how people of Solwezi really wanted a road done. There were complaints, like we actually produce, give the government a lot of money by way of taxes because we are mining a lot of copper. We are the new copper belt, but we are not getting a fair share of development. That was a cry for many years. President Lungu made that possible. The Chirilabombwe road, township roads on the copper belt, township roads in Lusaka that AVIC were dealing with. And think about the airports. President Kaunda left us 2 good international airports, but they had outlived their usefulness. Zambia needed to become a hub in the whole sub-region where we could now be able, because we are land-linked, we could be able now to transport passengers from Malawi, Zimbabwe, yes, including South Africa here where we are, Mozambique and so on, via Lusaka, that we could have connectivity from Lusaka to the rest of the world. But first, the beginning point was going to be airports. Have a new international airport in Lusaka and one on the Copper Belt in Ndola. And the next thing is what is obviously happening now with Zambia Airways and many other now. We saw Qatar coming on board. We saw, reputable airlines, inquiring on starting to use Lusaka as a hub. And it takes time, but it's going to happen. But all that is premised on the fact that we've laid down the infrastructure. Think about the Mulungushi Conference Center. And again, that ties to, the two airports that we constructed. Because once you've got good airports like that, then Lusaka or Zambia could be a hub for international conferences. And so we produced, with the leadership of President Edgar Lungu, International Conference Center. Now, look at this infrastructure that I'm talking about. It was President Kaunda that pretty much, provided this. But at the time that Zambia maybe had about 5 million people, and Zambia is now 20 million people, President Lungu realized that we needed to renew infrastructure in the country. Now, I can talk about schools. More than 300 high schools, more than 200 primary schools that President Lungu championed in the country. And these are what are now helping the new government embark on free education. There was not going to be even a program to provide free education without construction of schools. So the legacy of President Edgar Lungu, is a legacy that, is being useful or will be built, is whose legacy, free education will be premised on. So the new government is providing free education, but the beginning point was the infrastructure that President Lungu championed and provided. I mean, think about the health sector, the hospitals. All we could talk about was UTH. There's plenty of hospitals now to talk about. There's Kalindawalo. There's another one specialized like Kalindawalo in Chinsali. There's another one on the airport road, the expansion of UTH to provide, cancer treatment. Talk about raising Matero to first level hospital. Talk about Chawama. And mini hospitals, more than 109 mini hospitals were constructed. And to add to that, we had to expand on the training for our medical personnel. We introduced a new university called Levi Mwanawasa University, and being used in the region by so many citizens of the region. But that is helping us produce the personnel that we need to man the hospitals that we have. President Lungu had a vision. He lived as a president with a great vision. And remember, when he became president, one of the questions that was asked by, the media and many people out there was, what's your vision for the country? When he said that I'm going to build on President Michael Sata's vision, or the PF manifesto or vision, it was already elaborate, and there was no need for me to come up with my own vision. People laughed at him, mocked him, and looked down upon him. They thought, what kind of a president have we got? But from that moment to now, let's look at President Edgar Lungu's story. Let's think about the hospitals that he's constructed. The man had a vision, and he had a point to prove to the rest of Zambians that he did have a vision. People mocked him, said all sorts of things. Today, we can talk about vocational training centers, the trade schools that were constructed to cater for those, youths that may have not attained qualifications to attain higher education, but need skills to survive on. Tiling, building, bricklaying, plastering, everything that goes with building and so on. He provided, skills centers in Pika, in different areas. President Edgar Lungu provided or expanded fuel storage facilities in the country. Today, when you go to Chipata, before you arrive in Chipata, you find huge tanks that we could only see in Pika, in Ndola, and maybe part of Lusaka. But those tanks, you see them in many parts of the country, because he realized that we needed high consumption of fuel, but we had very limited storage, and that was impacting on fuel prices. And today, you go to those areas that I've mentioned, you find huge storage facilities that President Lungu championed in all areas of development or of human endeavor in the country. President Lungu did touch. I think we're going to remember him as a man who touched many people's lives. apart from just providing leadership, that provided all this infrastructure, Kafulafuta Dam, before I forget, huge project, the Lusaka water bulk supply, putting new pipelines from Kafue to bring more water into Lusaka, because previously the population of Lusaka was very small, and therefore we could not cope with supply. We had to do that project that China Civil implemented, championed by him. Think about the power sector, the Itezi power project. Think about Kafue Gorge, Lower. Think about the other project that is still under construction now, the Batoka. All those projects were initiated by President Edgar Lungu. So in all areas of development, President Lungu did have a hand and touched people's lives. Personally, he was very influential, as I conclude, very influential. When President Lungu began to promote healthy living by doing road runs, the whole country followed suit because he was very influential. People loved him. Everybody began to realize that that was a way of life. When we started the Keep Zambia Clean, Green and Healthy campaign, and every Saturday of the last Saturday of every month, we had to go out and start cleaning. Everybody began to do that. He engaged himself in fish farming, and the whole country realized fish farming was profitable and necessary for the country. That's how influential he was. But he just loved people. Amongst children, he was really, behaving like a child, and people were very happy. Kids were very happy. He went out, mingled with youths, the old. He was very charming, and he just behaved as he was. A very simple and humble man that was given to us by his family to serve the nation. So much that he did for this country that we shall always remember him. Created so many districts in the country, and the impact of that will continue to be felt. Think about the children that will go to schools that were constructed, led by President Edgar Lungu, and those that are getting relief from the hospitals. He touched so many people's lives, and we shall remember him. We say thank you to the Lungu family for giving us such a man. We say thank you to God for providing such a leader to us, and thank you to the PF for producing such a president. We shall live to remember him. His legacy shall live on. Shall live on. May his soul rest in peace and continue to rest in peace. Thank you so much, President Edgar Chagwa Lungu. May your soul rest in eternal peace.
Good evening. My name is Mwewa Chirufia. I come from Livingstone. I'm a PF sympathizer. Here we arrived from South Africa in Sandton, where we are remembering our late president, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu. It's unfortunate that we are not burying him in Zambia. It's unfortunate, but I'm sure whatever happens, God has got his own way of doing things. We might not understand now, but we'll understand later why all these things are happening. For me, I saw Mr. Lungu as a leader he was just a natural leader. He didn't need to force things, to force anyone to work, because he always led by example. I think when you look at even the philosophy of Mr. Michael Sata and the philosophy of Mr. Edgar Lungu, there's quite a lot of connection on those two leaders. It's such a blessing to have had such leaders and to have lived in their time, because such kind of human beings are very rare to find. Mr. Sata started the Patriotic Front. Then later on, after he died, we were given Mr. Edgar Lungu. I remember he was given a lot of positions before he died, before Mr. Sata died. He was vice president. He was minister of justice. He was. I think he had more than 4 positions that time before when Mr. Sata was almost dying. What does that mean? It means that Mr. Sata saw something in Mr. Lungu, which was leadership. But currently, unlike Dr. Edgar Lungu, currently we don't have leadership. Leadership which can't even try to come out, even where they need to apologize, they apologize. Where they need to guide the country, they guide. But it's unfortunate that that is where we are right now with our current leadership in government. Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu was quite a simple man. He had a very humble background, but that is why you could even see that it doesn't take money for one to be a leader. Leading is not something that is sold. Leading people is just something that comes out naturally. And because Mr. Lungu had a very soft way of doing things, people thought that he was weak. Others thought he was not doing his job. But he's a kind of man who was quite observant. He would wait to make a judgment. He was not somebody who would just see the situation and judge you there, right there. No. For Mr. Lungu, if you're arguing with him, you concentrate on your good part of it. And he is somebody who understood humanity based on how he lived with people. I can give you examples of some people that we thought could not work with Mr. Lungu, and one of them is Mr. Chris Zuman. Mr. Chris Zuman was quite a critic of Mr. Lungu. He was so stiff on him, I remember, during those days. But what did Mr. Lungu do? He did the opposite, and all of us were surprised. But we muntu political advisor. So such comes from a good leader who sees the positive part of somebody. And if a leader checks at your positive end, it means he wants the best from you. And that can only come from somebody who has got love. Because if you really want to see the best part of a human being, is to show them love. If you don't show love to a human being, nothing is going to work well for you. Because each and every person has got 2 sides, the good part and the bad part. And we were privileged to have Mr. Lungu, who looked at the good part of humanity. Leadership crisis. Mr. Lungu actually, we had a very big test in 2014 when President Michael Sata died. I think that time we were just remaining with a year before the general elections. And if it was a time when the PF would have died, I think that was the best time, because we had a lot of factions, there were a lot of divisions in the party. Some members even went on to form their own political parties. But God saw us through that time when we were about to be divided. And that's how God gave us Mr. Edgar Lungu. We are privileged that in PF we've lost a leader before, and we've come out united and forged ahead. So looking at Mr. Lungu, his legacy, and how he loved his people, I'm sure the spirit of Mr. Lungu will guide us again to have somebody who is going to be able to listen to the people. During this particular period of his sickness, we saw how much he was tormented, and here and there. But he would hardly insult or shout at anybody. Even when things seemed to be so difficult for him. You remember, he was in courts. At one time, the wife was put in police custody. A gate was removed from his house at one time. His entire family, the children, are facing court charges. Some businesses were seized. And a lot of it, like most satanic one, where he was even denied. He was even denied to access his own medical attention, even at his own cost. So, regardless of that, Mr. Edgar Lungu taught us that we should show love to others, and we should show unity. We should use this example of how he handled situations. Like I mentioned, Chris Zuman was a critic, but he brought him near to work with him. So these that are criticizing us, I think this is a time that we must unite as a party, we must unite as a country. I think the country knows exactly what is happening now. The leadership that we have now is that of instilling fear in people. People can't even talk now. I think in our next campaign slogan, we'll just try to say silent majority. We won't even be talking. Because if you talk, they throw you in custody. If you try to talk, they throw you in custody. So I think we are going to maybe use the silent majority so that a lot of people don't go to jail unnecessarily. Because for our friends, punishing someone by way of seizing their businesses, way of taking them to jail, I think is one way they think they can remain in power. But what gives power? They are holding on to power because they have got resources. But our philosophy in PF, we don't use money. We use love. And that's the difference between the Patriotic Front and our guys who are now ruling. Just cut that go. As I conclude, let us remember Edgar Lungu, that leadership can't be bought. Leadership comes from God. Therefore, the Patriotic Front already, we've seen how much we've united during this funeral. We've got solid membership. So in order for us to choose leadership, we should look at people who are selfless, people who are ready to work for the party, not people that we would say, no, sendeni kwa ndefo kwa mina vukansel at ndefo kwa mina vukansel at no leta kwa 10 pini leta kwa kunominate 10 tubomfye info yaba Edgar Lungu kusala intongoro shisuma intongoro shishibombane mpya intongoro shishikwete femitima shakubombera bena Zambia. Then turero mbako na bonse abo abantu bochire ku Zambia uko kuchira ati tule mitari present, that's why time to time kule bokulanda na emwe abantu munchiresha sana pa Facebook through by mano mwamba pa pages ya moya na TV ya moya mo bale tambisha abantu bali kuno abale bukisha ba Edgar Lungu who are representing you. I've got so much to say, but I'll just ask for 1 hour next time. Otherwise, Mr. Lungu did so much, and for me, I'm so proud to have been his student. Thank you so much. Most of it 1 hour.
Just do 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Okay. I mean.
I remember President Edgar Chagwa as someone who believed in youth leadership. I remember at the time when I came to know President Lungu was when I was introduced to him by late President Michael Chilufya-Sata, may he so rest in peace, at Kavirenga Guest House in Ndola. Thereafter, when I'd aspired to contest as a member of parliament for Ron, instead I was adopted as mayor of Luansha in 2016. We worked very well with him, away from the civic office, as well as on the other side as a politician. By then I was provincial youth chairperson for Copper Belt. Later on, I became provincial chairman for Copper Belt, and we did a lot in the province. But I just want to draw my remembrance to him, how we worked for the town of Luansha. Luansha was having problems, especially with water brews. I remember we started Kafrafta Dam project, which today has started servicing the people of Luansha, Ndola, Masaiti, and Mpongwe. This is a register to stand to remember President Edgar Chagwa. Not only that, when we look at the Simon Mwansaka Pwepwe Airport, because that airport sits sharing the borders of Ndola, Luansha, Kitwe, and Mufrila. So the business in Luansha, as a result of that airport, has actually boomed, and the value for land in the surrounding areas has actually gone up. But other things that I can also talk about President Lungu when we come about infrastructure development in Luansha. As I speak, there is one project up to now which Luansha hosts. Luansha hosts the biggest medical stores in the northern region. It is situated in Luansha, and that's the more reason why during PF time there were no issues of shortages of medicine, because PF had planned how to store drugs to service the people in the health sector. And then not only that, when we come to the issues of empowering local authorities, under President Edgar Chagwa, the local government equalization fund, which up to now is given to local authorities across the country, was increased to a tune of 10%, which supports local authorities to do with subsidizing them where paying of council workers is concerned. So these are among the other things that we remember President Edgar Chagwa as someone who was passionate about improving the standard of living for the poor. He was also a generous person who used to share with the have-nots. And not only that, he was also committed to seeing to it that not only those who are up there share in the leadership roles, but he believed in the youths, like I've said, the women, and everybody to be part of the governance system of our nation. So to me, President Lungu was more than just a president to me. He's someone who supported me all the way from the civic office to the political office up to now, where I sit now as a member of the Central Committee. So I'll remain very indebted to him for the support that he gave me, having had served as the youngest mayor, as well as the youngest member of Central Committee. You know, he had entrusted in me to run the most problematic as well as important province in Zambia, and that is Copperbelt province. So we need to appreciate a man who has done a lot for this country. Indeed, he was a great man, a man who will be missed by all of us. His death is very devastating, such that he has gone at a time when we needed him most, especially as a nation. He was a unifier, a person who loved all the people, a person who loved God. Each time he visited the province, the first thing he could say, "Bachairman, I think mfaiko program yako batupasande tuasali kako." And it's a main reason why even he had to declare a day of national prayer, repentance and reconciliation, because he believed in God, that God was the source of everything in leadership. Otherwise, not only that, I remember him again when we had armyworms, which had affected a lot of farmers during that time on the Copperbelt. He visited us, and we had to tour all the areas on the Copperbelt, and he demonstrated that in leadership, challenges will always be there, but how you rise above these challenges matters most. So we emulate his leadership, and only doing so by reconciling and loving one another. Otherwise, those are some of the things that I remember ECL as someone who was very humble, very welcoming, a listening leader, hardworking, and a very, very intelligent person. To those who are in sport, they say a health nation is a wealth nation. I remember we used to do those aerobics every day in the morning, and today a good number of people are doing aerobics. He is among the pioneers and the ambassadors of aerobics in this regard. So we remember him as someone who did a lot in this regard. Otherwise, may his soul rest in eternal peace. Thank you.
My name is Kabwenso Farupere, aspiring candidate for Chilabombo constituency as an MP. I joined my fellow MP members and Tonsa Alliance here in South Africa to pay the last respect to our former head of state, the 60th Republic's president, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Today, it's a very sad day. I'm here in South Africa to pay the last respect to our former Republican president, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. Mwebena Chililabombwe, kupitisha pona mwebena Zambia. Ba Edgar Lungu, info wafuira pano pa pesa mbela chilo mna Mzambia. Mwamuno mtima gwete ba Edgar Lungu ba gwete omutimo usuma echarenga batufuye no kutufuira. So amakushiwifi ya kutukoseresha bonse. Our late 60th Republican president worked tirelessly, especially in the Copper Belt, for the KCM and Chilabombo miners. I remember I worked very close with Honorable Richard Musukwa. By then, mines minister, I was the mobilization chairman for Chilabombo district. I could hear the conversation between the Honorable Musukwa and the former late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu, emphasizing about the miners in Chilabombo and Chingola over the issue of KCM. He had the heart for the people of Chilabombo and the all miners across the Copper Belt. The Rochland Conservation Chakutira natwa yamu Bible ngamwamona ifyachitike kuri Moses kufumya abana ba Israel mu Egypt. Moses tafikire kuri okwa ino kutola abana ku Kenani. Na Kenani ari imweneyo but wahirefisha abantu Kenani ni Joshua. Echo ndem kosa cha mayona Chilabombo na mwena Zambia bonse. Isentwika tanange fmetwa ikatana. Patriotic Front is a big political party, the main opposition party in Zambia, waiting in government. So, lesa ala tupela Joshua, and this is not the first time we have lost the president for PF. Moneda tuarufsheba fiashba basata may so rest in peace. Lesa isa tupela ba Edgar Lungu. Na pape nere so mu inat centra ba Edgar Lungu. Ala tupera intungurushi ikatwabusha mu 2026. Pantu muno Zambia, the only hope people have is PF to form government in 2026 so that the Zambians can be liberated with what is happening in Zambia. Thank you so much.